You had 5 traits. The other one that really stood out for me of like the top people leaders was they activate through managers. I'm fascinated by this because I talk a lot about managers, and sometimes I feel like I blame managers a lot for the problems we have in HR.
Yeah, well, and rightfully so, because there is no leverage point inside the business that impacts the employee experience more than the manager.
Yeah.
Like the hard truth of HR is that our tangible impact is maximized through the first 90 days. And then after that, the employee experience is largely based off that person's manager. And so in my view, the way that you can influence the business as a modern strategic HR leader is to create great collaborative relationships where managers are excellent, where managers actually live out the values and the dreams. Like we ourselves love to put things on our back and carry this heavy weight and try to be the hero. You know, I like have in the keynote I was just building, it's like there's a superhero, you know, it's like we love being that superhero, but it's not realistic. It's not practical. Like we can't do this all alone on our own. And so we have to change the fundamental dynamic of how we relate to managers. It can't be this authoritative top down, like just go do this thing and execute. You actually have to make their life better. Show them how their life could be easier by giving continual feedback, by creating standards for one-on-ones, by setting clear goals and holding people accountable to their goals. Or a great example that happened to me when I was in sales, and I had an amazing HR leader, and she taught me how to hire efficiently. And to still hire for excellence, but to hire efficiently. So the things that they brought to me made my life better, not slower, not extra. It needs to feel like, I think for a manager to get on board, it's got to be like, oh, this actually makes my job better.
Yeah. I did a deep dive on the evolution of managers because I do tend to, I sympathize with them, but also tend to blame a lot of the problems we face in HR on them because they are the direct impact. But it's been interesting because in the Industrial Revolution, your managers were like task oriented. They only monitored like what you were producing in a factory. And then in the 80s, they evolved to be like managers and coaches. So they're like coaches and task people. And now we're in our era where they have tasks, they have to coach, and then they also kind of have to care about well-being, which is a third layer of intensity. And so when I look at the modern manager, I'm honestly like, this job starts to feel impossible. And so like, what can HR leaders do to make the job less impossible for these managers so that they can actually activate them?
That's so good. That's so good. I don't even know, like I have a deep empathy for managers in the same way that I do for HR, because a manager's situation, whereas at least for HR, you oftentimes can get in the room and have that moment of courage.
Yeah.
Imagine being a middle manager who a company directive just comes from the top. You have no influence over it. You have to sit in a Monday morning meeting sharing this new company thing that impacts your employees that they all disagree with, that you disagree with.
Yeah.
And you're just like in the room.
Return to office. That's like
return to office.
The data has been wild about like managers being caught in the middle.
I mean, it's a hard job, and I think that the HR really the exceptional HR leaders come alongside, even in that situation. They lean into that awkward moment, and they make sure that manager is equipped with the business context. Maybe has some predictable questions that might come up and some ways to answer, and just to be supportive of those people, because their success is your success. Like there is no success in HR that is detached from managers. It is all kind of together. Yeah.
And people always, I think, tend to default to like, let's just train the managers and we will, that'll solve everything. And my thought on that is like, yeah, you can train them, but also what are you doing to like ease their workload as well? Like if they're managing 10 people and have a project that they're leading on, something's going to fall to the wayside, and probably it's going to be coaching the people and having the hard conversations, because the work is like what the business needs to get done. And so I've joked and I said I would love to work somewhere where I just get to manage, where I don't have to do like any work. I just have to manage my team, because that would be so fun. But like,
is that a job?
Is that a job?
Yeah,
that's not a job. It's not a job. And then everyone like promotes people into being managers. And that's the other thing I think a lot of people get wrong is like, not everybody should be a manager. And like, there's an intense responsibility that comes with it. And if as HR leaders, we can say like, this is the wrong move to promote this person, like they can be an IC, but they can't be a manager. I feel like we don't have that conversation enough either.
We do not. And part of that is because we have elevated management in people's heads as a higher, like as a better, more successful path. And HR, I do think, has a big role in lifting up the individual contributor and celebrating them for the backbone of the organization that they are. Yeah. And so having people who can move up in their careers, move up in their salary, not feel like they have to leave. If they're top performing individual contributors, you should feel like that is both a viable and a needed, exciting path in your career in life.
Not everyone should be a manager. I always ask people when they tell me like, I want to be a manager. I always ask why. And if the answer is like, well, I want to make more money, I'm like, you don't need to be a manager.
You have no idea what's coming. Yeah, and you can make a lot of money as an individual contributor, by the way, and enjoy your life. Just go enjoy your life and like be. Yeah, I was thinking about this morning, actually, this concept of like the top performing individual contributor that gets thrown into management. And they have an amazing first 30 to 60 days because they're better at the job than everyone on their team. And so they can kind of like brute force everybody into success. And then there is this humbling moment that happens for the top performing ICs that become managers as they go, overwhelming stress, like because there's nothing scalable about what they're doing. They're not actually managing people. They're just doing, instead of one person's job with excellence, they're doing like 5 people's job.
Yeah.
And they kind of hit a breaking point where they go, oh, this isn't actually management. Like what I'm just doing other people's job for them. And so then moving into like, how do I coach people? How do I help them set their priorities? How do I trust them to fail? Give them feedback. It's just like a very different job than what it means to be an individual contributor.